As the Planning for Profit software has evolved, there's been more and more information added to the dashboard tool that's in there. What do all those dials mean? Well, that is the topic of this week's Planning for Profit Minute. Let's take a look at the dashboard as a whole. Now, when you first started out with the software, there's nothing in here, but once we start building our model and adding everything in, when we come back to the dashboard, everything starts to populate in there. So there's a couple of different items. Let me walk through them one at a time. We start out here, right here in this corner, below the Planning for Profit logo. We're going to list all of your departments here, one after the other, and give you a couple of different bits of information in there. Right? So we start out, as we zoom in on that piece of it, we can see that we've got the department name. So each of our departments are listed. What is the break-even rate in that department? Now, again, remember, break-even rate is from a cash flow perspective, and so it's all in. All of your bills are paid. You put money aside for trucks. You paid off your loans, or you're making your loan payments. You're paid as the owner, right? And there's just nothing left after that. And so that's our break-even rate for each department. And then right next to that is the current rate. So I can see here in my service department, my break-even rate is $80.09. I'm currently charging $97.39. And then the last column here shows me what is the net profit that we're currently shooting for in that department. So it just kind of lays out those at a quick glance, all of our departments and where our profitability is. Right underneath that, you've got the picture of me. Right? And so again, these Planning for Profit minutes, these videos that we put out each week, we give them to you as a resource in the dashboard itself. And so each week, this dashboard automatically updates and you get the next video that's there. Now, the nice part about this is there's a lot of information, and you may come in here and go, I remember Bill talked about that in a previous video. We give you access to all of the videos by simply clicking on this little icon, and I'll get out of your way right here, this little icon right there. When you click on that, it will open up a list and give you every single Planning for Profit minute that we've had to date. And so you can go in and watch any one of those, but literally you can actually sit and play this right here in the player itself, and it will give you all of that information. So that's the Planning for Profit minute panel that's there. I'm going to move over then to the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and we've got the 4 dials over here. The first dial, a couple of dials, are all about hours. Right? So the first one is driven around billable hours. Right? And I can see here that you've got a scale of, again, if I make that just a little bit bigger for us to look at, whoops, there we go. Right? I can see on that one, it's over or under target for billable hours. And so this dial is all driven off of the labor hours tracking report. So if you go in there at the end of each month and put in what was your revenue for the month, what were your material costs, and it will then tell you, are you billing out the number of hours you thought you were going to so far this year? That's what's driving this dial. And so you can see at a glance here, without going into that report, I can see right now I'm 249.98 hours behind where I thought I was going to be at this point in the year. Again, that dial is simply coming from the tracking reports right here on your menu. That's what's populating that dial. The next one that we've got is going to be the current job tracking hours. Now, the current job tracking hours this is if you're using the job tracking hours piece tool under the jobs section. We have job tracking hours. Now, again, what that's going to do is that's going to track individual jobs for you. Just, again, let you know, are you on track to finish this job in the number of hours that you thought you were going to when you bid it? So there's a lot of detail here in this particular report if you're using this. First off, remember, you won't use this for jobs that are going to take 1, 2, 3 days. This will typically be jobs that span several months, right? Because again, 1 or 2 or 3 days, you can keep track here whether you're getting that job done in time. When it starts spanning weeks or even months, or worse yet, years, now it makes it far more difficult to find out, are we getting it done in the number of hours that we thought we were going to in the bid? And so this one here simply gives you the ability to look at each individual job, right? So I can see, if it started, not started, what is the job name? Who is the lead tech who's running this job? how many actual hours were used so far on the job. In this tool, we ask that lead technician to tell us, okay, what percentage, how far along are we on this job, right? So in these here, I can see that they're completed. As I scroll down on these jobs, we've got other ones that, okay, this job here is 40% done. Now, again, I know that when we're estimating that percentage at the beginning of the job, there's a whole, I could be off a ways. But as you continue to work through the job and get closer and closer to the end, that estimate of completion gets more and more refined as we get to the end, and your numbers become more accurate. And so based on that, if indeed, this particular job, if I look at it, our estimate had in it 70 hours to complete the job. 175 hours to complete the job, right? If we were 40% done, we would have used 70 hours. That means, if you remember, actual hours used, we're at 75. We're already 5 hours behind schedule on this job. We're on track right now to finish it 5 hours over our bid, right? And then from that point, again, how many hours do we have left to finish the job? And yep, we're behind on that one. Now, so again, that's what this report is tracking for you. And so when I go back to that dial on the front screen, it will now start to track, and I'll actually take a particular department, right? I can now see in here that, and this is my installation department in this company. We're currently on all jobs that we have going. It's a current cumulative total, right? Because you have some jobs that, I finished, I went over on this one, but I got the next one done quicker. And so it kind of made up that difference. Well, right now, out of all jobs that we've got going for this department, we're 100 hours behind schedule. And so it kind of tells me where we're at. I used to work with a salesman that says, don't worry, if we lost money, we'll make it up on the next one. You don't make it up on the next one because that one's just as competitive. So these two dials are all about tracking hours for jobs that you have going and hours for your entire year. From there, we'll scroll down a little bit farther. And we've got these two dials here. These two kind of work together a little bit. The first dial on the right is going to be your overhead as a percentage of your total revenues. And so basically in this particular case, overhead is 34% of our total revenues. Okay, that's what it's going to take to pay all the bills, to again, make the loan payments, pay you, put money aside for the trucks, the whole thing. The next one is going to be the gross profit target to hit your target net profit for the company. Because again, that's one of the reasons why I dislike gross profit as a general rule. Because I hear companies all the time that say, we're at 35% gross profit, we're at 40%, we're at 50% gross profit. I don't care, because you haven't paid your bills yet. Is that enough to cover all of your expenses? And so this last one is going to tell you, okay, we're shooting for, in this case, an 8% net profit. That means I need to operate at a 42% net profit to have enough money in this department to cover my cost of operation, put money aside for trucks, pay me, and still generate that 8% net profit. All right, so literally that ties into the screens up at the top, right? If I look up at this panel up here, again, you can see that in that department, my installation department that I've got highlighted, I'm shooting for an 8% net profit. So the difference between my cost of operation and my gross profit to cover everything is going to be that net profit percentage. So that's what that number comes down to. And so those two dials work together. Right underneath that, we've got two more dials that are in, or not dials, but graphs that are in here. The first one is your materials as a percentage of sales. Now, in this particular department, I can see that we're running 23.4% of my total sales are materials. Now, typically for HVAC, right, you're going to be somewhere in that, most companies will be somewhere in that 35 to 37% net profit. If you go much over 37%, that tells me that odds are your pricing is too low. Right? In this case, my pricing is actually a little bit higher for this particular department, and so therefore materials are a little bit lower. The graph, the other graph that we've got in there then is this one right here, and that's basically revenue per employee in the company. This is the only graph on this page on your dashboard that's company-wide. Every other graph on here is by department. And so literally as I click a different department, right, and I'll simply, if you watch my dials on the other side, when I hit another department, all these dials update for that given department. All right, so those will vary by department. This particular graph, the revenue per employee, is company-wide. And so in this particular company, I can look at that and I can see our total revenue per employee is, we're at $279,958 per employee. So it gives you an idea where you're shaking out. Is your staff starting to get a little bit lean? Do you need to add some people? Are you going to wear them out pretty quick? Just what's going on there. And then the last item on the dashboard itself will be the monthly cash flow charts as your projection has created. And again, this is by department. Whatever you've got clicked up ahead in that top left corner is what's going to be displaying down here. This is the same chart that you see on your monthly cash flow. And so again, the blue line here is your month by month. Each month is a standalone. The green line is the cumulative total for the entire year, kind of your checkbook balance, if you will. So it's kind of an at-a-glance look at where your company stands, how healthy your company is, and where your pricing needs to be. If you've got any questions on this one, feel free to reach out to us. And that is this week's Planning for Profit Minute.